I stood up and we forecasted the wave between 2020 and 2024 would be based upon shortages. And the number one market was going to be in the agricultural. So, I mean, everything's, these are not personal forecasts. All right. This is what the computer, spits out, and it's never been wrong.
So what should people do if we're going to have shortages? Should people be stockpiling up on canned food?
That pasta, uh, like minute rice, things like that last for years. And that's what you're going to have to do. It's, I look, I think they intend to, um, from my sources, they're pushing this digital ID, and the excuse is going to be, oh well, we're at war now with Russia, and we need to be able to identify Russian spies. So everybody will have to have an ID to prove that they're American, etc. This is going to be the sales point. Um, the I posted on our blog that they were going to put out a digital currency, but different than what anybody expected. And what that is, um, the eCash bill that was put in, you look at it closely, it is shifting the power to create money from the Federal Reserve to the White House. It's the Treasury that will issue the digital dollar, not the Federal Reserve. So all these people that hate the Fed, etc. Sorry, you're not looking at this realistically. Once you remove the power from the Federal Reserve and you put it in the White House, Katie bar the doors. I mean, they can do whatever they want. So I
They
think
can
you're
cut
going to be,
off their opponent's money.
yeah, absolutely, all political, 100% political.
Whoa.
So
Will dollars still work? Paper dollars, hundies, 50s, 20s, ones. Will that stuff?
they they intend to cancel them. Um,
Wow.
Europe does it. Canada passed a law that they can now cancel the currency, and this is what's going on. So, the U.S. People misunderstand this. Oh, the U.S. is a reserve currency all because of oil. That's not true. Um, the U.S. has never canceled its currency. So about 70% of the paper dollars circulate outside the United States, even in Russia and China, because they're a hedge against their own currencies. All right. And then you take this situation. If you cancel those currencies, it's going to be a problem. I took flights when they issued the new $100 bill, and they're advertising on the international flights. The old $100 bills are still valid. Don't worry about it. Blah blah blah, because there's so much of it, circulating around the world. So the dollar is the reserve currency because it's never been canceled, and so therefore there's no also restrictions. So you have all these emerging markets that have issued dollar debt. Even China warned its provinces don't issue dollar debt, which they did. All right. So by issuing it in dollars, what they've done is that's part of the dollar and why it's the reserve. Europe could never become a reserve currency like that because one, politically, the system was completely different. But two, Europe routinely cancels its currency. And Britain's the same way.
When do you think they'll cancel the dollars that we have in circulation, the physical dollars we have
I
now?
would I would say probably by 2024.
So, okay, so for you got some time to use physical dollars. How much food should you have? What's your computer saying about
I
how
would
long?
say you should have at least a couple years.
You should have 2 years. That's pretty bearish. You should have 2 years. Is it going to be any food, or are you talking about food where you have to only eat that food, or is it going to be some food in the stores, or
It depends where you are. There will always be some food in the stores, but the prices will be up dramatically, and shortages. So even
wow.
when I go to the store here in Florida, sometimes my family was coming down and they like mini wheats. There was absolutely none. So you got to buy some other cereal for them. It's and then the next time you go back there, if there are many wheats, so what do? You buy 3 boxes instead of 1.
Shortages. So hoarding.
Everybody starts hoarding.
Shortages, hoarded. Shortages, hoarding. What about Donald Trump? Have you met him in the past? Or can you even say you have? Can you say what did you think of him? Or you have been hired to basically give an ascertainment of presidential candidates like George Bush 43. You thought he was pretty dumb, and they said, yes, we won. Donald Trump, he's not dumb, right? People think he's a stooge, that he's stupid.
No, look,
I don't think he's dumb, and I don't think he's a stooge.
No, he invited me down to his Mar-a-Lago. I went down while he was president because I felt with all these people, you really have to look them in the eye, really, to get a sense of what's there. And I will say this, he did change my mind at that point.
Wait, in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way. He was the first head of state, and I've met many presidents from Reagan on. But he was the first one that ever stood up, and he said he wanted to take the troops out of Afghanistan. And he said he was sick and tired of writing letters to people that your son died for God and country. And he said, he point blank, he said he wanted to withdraw all the troops from Afghanistan. He says, what are we there for? We're fighting over borders that they've been fighting over for 1,000 years. He said, what difference are we going to make? And then you had Bolton come out, this is ridiculous, wants to take all the troops out of Afghanistan. And look, I mean.
So wait. So he was upset by the deaths.
Yes. He was the first head of state I ever met who gave 2 shits about soldiers being killed. For what? Were you defending the country, and God, or etc.? No. You were just fulfilling a role from some neocon that always wants to fight Russia. It's the same thing with Ukraine. U.S. has been funding the civil war over there. And, I recommend you watch Oliver Stone's movie, Ukraine on Fire. A lot of people don't realize, but Ukraine was dominated by Ukrainian Nazis who joined with the German Nazis. They killed Jews just like the Germans did, but they also killed Polish, and they also killed Russians. So because they were doing ethnic cleansing against Russians, all right, then they were never prosecuted. The U.S. supported them because, okay, fine, you're the enemy of Russia. Well, that's our enemy too, so you're our friend.
Wow.
And
nobody ever talks about it. I see the reporting on television that, the Russians have done. Never a word about the Ukrainian Nazis. Never a word about all the charges where they're saying that the Nazis, the Ukrainians, are shooting their own people and blaming it on Russia. You don't see any of that reporting. It's just Russia bad, Russia bad, Russia. I mean, I want to see just the real reporting. Just give it to me exactly the way, all the propaganda. If Russia was so bad, why would they have to commit all this propaganda? They would just go out and photograph it, right?
Look, even Bucha, the photographs showed that there were people lying in the streets, but you didn't see any blood. How were they killed? And then when the camera passes, one of them caught them getting up off the ground and walking away. I mean, they need propaganda. I just published a piece that Zelensky is basically, in my opinion, a fraud. Before the election, he never admitted that he wouldn't comment that he was Jewish. Afterwards, he's suddenly Jewish. So he can't possibly be a neo-Nazi because he's Jewish. Not true. All right. He's basically the same thing as Soros. He married a non-Jew, and his children were baptized Christian. He rejected Judaism the same as Soros did. All right. And suddenly, he's a Jew defending Ukraine against these people, and he's even equated it to the Holocaust, which pissed off an awful lot of the Jewish people I know in Israel. He will say whatever's necessary to get money. I mean, they have my phone number, and I'm getting texts from the Ukrainian government. Oh, please send us money for the people. I wouldn't give 10 cents to them. All right, you want to help the people? Give it to the International Red Cross or International Red Crescent. Do not send any money to Ukraine. I am unable to confirm that their 10 cents even goes to the people.
So that when they sent this, what is it, $14 billion to Ukraine, that's all just payoffs and bribes and stuff going to the cronies, right? But people didn't get that.
Look, I mean, even the IMF was holding up money because they're in the top 10 most corrupt governments in the world.
Ukrainian.
Yeah, I mean, it's just simply the way it is, if not the most corrupt. But
I want to move on to this whole thing with Hunter Biden. All of a sudden, boom, it's real. The New York Times, the liars there, everybody should have been fired at the New York Times. That's like saying after a year and a half, saying the Pentagon Papers were a lie. A year and a half later, the Pentagon Papers are real. Who got fired for that? Well, nobody. So what's up with this? What's your read on why are they throwing Hunter Biden, which could drag Daddy, the big guy, under the bus? Why?
The rumor is basically that Biden's approval rating is so bad that they're afraid that may affect the midterm election.
You think?
So they're trying to come up with some way. And, I mean, there are people that would like to jettison him. But then you end up with Harris. So what's the solution? You give them both COVID and you claim they died, so you get to put in somebody else? I mean, it's a real mess. But to be fair, Biden was only doing the same thing that Hillary was doing. Look, Saudi Arabia gave, what was it, $50 million to the Clinton Foundation, which cares about women's rights and gay rights. Come on.
Right.
And as soon as she lost the election, all the heads of state that were donating money to her foundation suddenly stopped. They were buying influence. That's just simply the way it is. I mean, I know somebody whose father donated $1 million to the Clintons, and his son got a pardon. Look, this is just the way it goes. I mean, you would never, I don't know, with anybody in Washington, really, when you shake hands, count your fingers. It is just so bad, and it's both sides. It's not really just one side, and that was Trump's, I would say, his fatal mistake in so far as saying, oh yeah, I'm going to drain the swamp. Well, the swamp is both sides.
Yeah. Every time I see Biden fumbling around Kamala, I think actually Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and Kevin McCarthy and Ronald McDaniel. That's who they wanted. That's who the Republicans wanted.
Yes.
Who's going to win the midterm?
They didn't like Trump.
Do what?
At all. That was just simply it. I mean,
people say that Trump is this. Oh, he's playing both sides. He's a plant. If he was a plant, would they do international fraud and fraud with the post office and multiple levels and ballots and electronic and machines and foreign country? Would they do that to get rid of a guy that was a plant? They just ask him to step down. If he was a plant, they just to keep on doing what you're doing. I mean, right? I mean, they wanted to get rid of him because he wasn't down with the New World Order. Am I wrong?
Exactly. He was against the whole climate change nonsense. And I mean, he clearly said that when I was there at Mar-a-Lago, and they had to get rid of him because he was, even if you look at his Davos speech when he was invited there, he clearly says, we're not going to follow this stuff. And that was war. That was basically war. Everybody else then, they They had to get rid of him. Suddenly, then democracy became populism, and populism was evil. And look, their view of us is we are the great unwashed. We should not have a right to vote. We're too stupid to know what's best for us. They know what's best for us in the world. And if you look at Schwab's, points for 8 points for 2030, he even puts in there that, besides the United States will no longer be a superpower, and that is all handed to the UN. He also puts in there that democracy, has been stressed to the limits. We'll retain some of your rights, but, democracy's gone. They don't want democracy. And he was instrumental in creating the EU system. People get the vote for parliament over there to make them think that they have some sort of a right to vote, but parliament has no right to overrule the commission. The commission makes the laws, and they're appointed. The head of state is appointed by the other heads of state. They don't stand for election. So they successfully eliminated any democratic process in Europe.
And you think that Le Pen won't make it? Your call is Le Pen's not going to make it. Unless that...
It's going to be close, and in a real world, she should win. But will they allow that to happen? She's a nationalist. She's against the EU. If she is allowed to take office, that's, undermining the entire EU system.
Okay. How about I'm going to kind of rapid fire here. What about the midterms? Is that going to do any good? Are the Democrats going to lose? I mean, you have 31 Democrats saying, I think I'll take my campaign bribes, donations, and leave. They're leaving. Why? Do you think they're going to win? Do you think they have a chance in 2022, or are they going to have some big false flag or some big crazy event happening because they're going to lose power bigly?
In a real world, they should lose. But look, I've spoken to Republicans, and they think, okay, they win, blah, blah, blah. And you're not getting back to normal here. You're just not. There's too much down the road. The system is crumbling from within. And the same as the fall of Rome, basically. I produced a chart on the Roman monetary system, and yes, Rome lasted for 1,000 years, but it collapsed in 8.6 years, very rapidly. So we're in that final stage, and by the time we get to 2032, we're not going to have a government left. I think this is the fall of Republican governments. And what emerges after that is hard to say, but I would like to fight for a real democracy for once, where we actually make these decisions. Do we go to war or do we not go to war?
So you don't think that the Republicans will take the House and the Senate in 22?
No, they should. But the question is, look, they've been rigging elections for quite some time. One of my favorite quotes is actually from Stalin. You can vote for whoever you want. They don't decide elections. The guy that counts the votes is the one who decides. Rigging elections for a long time been going on. They needed to get rid of Trump.
Is he going to come back before 2024, or is he going to come back after 2024?
I was asked if I would get back involved in politics. And I was actually asked if I would talk to Trump and talk him out of running in 2024. And would I be interested in advising DeSantis? And my response was, I don't want DeSantis to go to Washington because you guys are going to eat him for lunch anyhow. I'd rather just keep him here in Florida. Thank you very much. That was my view. Washington is a joke. And think that you can put somebody in there and they will actually change the system is nonsense.
Whatever if Trump goes back into office and he gets medieval? He just goes after him. It's all-out war. No more negotiation. No more art of the deal. It's the art of the head chopping. The art of the guillotine.
I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that, honestly.
I mean, the FBI, the new bad guy in America, right? I mean, they should be so proud of themselves, attacking we the people.
Look, all of them are. Clapper, I mean, they were all in on this to get rid of Trump. And one of the things you can look at, the release of the Kennedy files.
Didn't happen.
CIA went to Trump and said, oh, look, we need another 6 months. All right, fine. They put it right after the election because they knew he wasn't going to win. And then when that came up, Biden, we need to suspend that. Yes, granted. Why are the, look, it was most likely the CIA that took him out because he wasn't interested in war either. All right. It's just the way it is. Once you took out Kennedy, then, Johnson signed it right away.
Yep, got the F-15 and the M16 and napalm.
Yeah, I mean, look, even in Wikipedia, it has in there, that he basically lied to the country. He said, but for all he knew, that, they were shooting at whales that night. Vietnamese never attacked us. You can look at Project Northwood. They presented to Kennedy to kill Americans themselves and blame it on Cuba to justify an invasion. He said no. That's on Wikipedia now. What I said about FDR, every single war has been nothing but lies. Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, and nothing was ever found.
And we're headed.
They tried going after Syria. Oh, he's gassing his own people. Why is that our problem? It's anything they can do, and they're always doing this. And this whole thing with Russia, it's just the same thing all over again.
We're headed for war.
Unfortunately, yes, you have these neocons that can't sleep at night. All right, we hated Russia, we hated, China because they were communists. Well, they're no longer communists. But they still call China, the Communist Party, communist government. Communism is when the government owns everything. There is no private ownership. I don't think that applies to China or Russia anymore.
What should the John Q. public do? That's 2 years of food. That's awful bearish.
Look, it's you're also looking at price increases. So it's not that there's necessarily 2 years of no food around, but you're looking at prices increasing. Look, Russia and Ukraine accounted for 30% of the world wheat supply. Just look at Pakistan. All right, they got rid of Khan, and he was calling it a conspiracy from the West. In part, he was correct. They were revolting against inflation, but the way he presented it was probably wrong, making it sound like it was a CIA plot to get rid of him. It wasn't. But was it a conspiracy from the West? In a way, yes, by pushing all the energy prices and everything else up, sanctions and you name it. And that you look at a lot of these countries, like Pakistan, for example, India, other countries, they live on a hand-to-mouth type of economy. They don't really have a lot of savings or things of this nature, the social programs. And you look at some of these, countries, and you see they're aligning with Russia, not with America.
Do you think that we're going to have a revolt against inflation? Is inflation going to get worse or better by 2022, 2023?
Oh, no, it's worse. It's going nowhere but up. And as I said about the central bank, they cannot stop it. This is shortages. So you raise interest rates to reduce inflation? No, it's only going to increase it. But the Fed is worried about being blamed under old myths and theories. So if they don't raise interest rates, then they go, oh, the politicians, it's all your fault. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, whatever. So they're raising the interest rates, but it's going to have an opposite effect.
Inflation's going to get worse. Market's going to tank.
The market's not necessarily. it depends upon which market you're talking about, and you're also looking at capital inflows. I would watch the euro very carefully, because if it makes a new low within the next 2 weeks, you're going to see this thing. That's going to be a signal that capital is pouring out of Europe to America. And I would pay close attention to that. U.S. interest rates rising at least attracts capital into U.S. government debt. But we're also looking at, capital going into equities, also commodities and things. I mean, everything basically rises in a shortage type inflationary atmosphere.
The commission on Silver Eagles is something like $14, $15, $16 over spot. An unbelievable amount of commit. So is that shortages? Do you think precious metals are also going to go way up?
Yeah, I mean, this is a part of the whole cycle. And you're looking at shortages across the board. I mean, let's say even new cars, you got to pay on average 5% over the sticker price to get one.
What just off the top of your head, what would you tell people to do if I was just like, I'm not very bright. I've got a 5-year-old car. Hey Martin, what we're sitting here in front of a pancake breakfast, and what should I do? What would be the best play? I don't have a lot of money in the market. What would I do? What would you tell me to do?
Make sure your car is in good shape.
Okay.
Not that you're going to be able to trade it in or something like that, but look, I think when you end up in the object here is to go to a digital currency. And the main purpose of that is to put everything in the basket that becomes taxable. All right, so if you found a $100 bill in a parking lot, right now they go, okay, fine, you cheated this because you should have given us $50. So you'll no longer be able to find anything in a parking lot. And this is their view. It's never their problem. It's not their fault. The problem is always us. We didn't pay our taxes. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. And this is unfortunately the trend. So what they will do, there's plenty of examples from history. And one I would point out is like Japan. The new emperor would come to power, and he would devalue all the outstanding money supply to 10% of whatever the new stuff that he's putting out. After about 3 emperors, that was it. They said, I know the scheme. And the Japanese just simply refused to accept Japanese coins. They started using Chinese coins and bags of rice for money. Japan actually lost the sovereign ability to issue coins for 600 years.
Wow.
That's what happens when you lose the confidence of a government. And moving to a digital currency, we're doing that. So it's what becomes valuable, a can of soup. Things of this nature, barter. We go back to a barter type system.
Wow.
Look at the fall of Germany and hyperinflation. Everything from antiques, coins, stamps, art, real estate. All these things basically became very, they became valuable.
Your goal you would tell people get real stuff, whether it's food, water, tires, batteries. The common guy, stock up. It's never going to be cheaper, and you may not be able to get it. Is that right?
Correct. I mean, everything you look at is, down here in Florida, if you want to improve your home and added something, good luck.